I apologize for my being sick. I picked up a wicked sore throat over the weekend, which just last night turned into a wicked sinus clog up. So, just gotta deal with it for now. But anyways, The Who. Seeing how this is their 50th anniversary tour and could potentially be their last tour since, they're really old now and they might die, considering two of the original members are dead already, and the other two, I mean, for me personally, you can't call a band unless at least half of the original members are still alive. So, for me, it was now or never. Like, I've never been a gigantic Who fan before, but, like, I decided to give it a chance, and of all people, I told my Taekwondo master about going to the show, and he said, "Oh man, don't worry about it, they're gonna be awesome. I saw them a few years ago, and Roger Daltrey, he's still in shape, they've still got a ton of energy, the first set was all their old stuff, and it was awesome, and then the second set they did Tommy in its entirety, and they were just going nuts. And it was, you're just gonna love it." So, with that in mind, I asked my friend to go, and it turned out this concert was on the same weekend as his dad's 50th birthday, so he got a ticket for him, and the three of us went as his 50th birthday present, seeing how he's as old as The Who, and oh boy, I didn't even know Joan Jett was going to be an opening act, so that was just kind of a surprise for me. Like, let's see what she did. She did all her big songs, like Bad Reputation, Cherry Bomb, I Love Rock and Roll, all those big songs. And, I don't know, for me, it seemed like she wasn't energetic enough. Like, she was just kind of there to be there. I mean, like, her backup band, like the guitarist, bassist, and drummer all looked like they had more energy than her. And I mean, how old is she? She's been around since like the 70s, right? But she does look really good for her age. She's taking care of her voice very, very well. She sounds pretty much exactly like you hear in the recorded versions of all of her songs. But, I don't know, I've just never been that much of a Joan Jett fan. Like, Cherry Bomb, I think that song is so cheesy. It sounds like it was written by a 16-year-old who never wrote a song before, because it probably was, for all I know, because that was one of her first songs. Nothing. It was good to hear all those songs that I've heard so many times before, but they could have done without it, I guess, but I don't know, it was nice to see it. But, I don't know, I'm here to talk about The Who, little Family Guy reference there. So, I like how chronological their set list is. Well, mostly chronological anyway. And, like, before a show, I like to just familiarize myself with, like, a band's popular songs, just to make sure, like, I know what to expect, if I know any words to sing along. There's so many songs I never knew were Who songs, and I should feel ashamed of myself, and I'm sure you guys are all gonna be like, "You didn't know that was a Who song? You're so stupid." Like, Okay, Squeeze Box, I didn't know that was a Who song before like 5 days ago. You Better You Bet. Oh boy. I I don't know why, but I thought that was a Meatloaf song because like you gotta admit it sounds like Meatloaf. Like it's very piano dominated, and a lot of Meatloaf's music has a lot of piano in it. So I figured, oh, it's a Meatloaf song, and I swear I even saw footage like years ago on TV of Meatloaf performing that song live, and I'm like, oh, it's a Meatloaf song. And then I was looking up a live show on YouTube for The Who, just to get an idea of what the show's going to be like. And I saw in the set list in the description, You Better You Bet. And I'm like, oh, they're doing a Meatloaf cover? That's pretty cool. But then I looked up the song on Wikipedia and it says it's a Who song, and I'm like, what? So, I don't know, but I've always really liked that song, even if I didn't know who did it, and I'm glad I heard it live, and my friend's dad actually said it was his least favorite Who song in the entire world, and I'm like, well, too bad they played it. Oh, and Eminence Front. I didn't know that was a Who song, and I feel so ashamed because it's such a kick-ass song, but oh, whatever. But yeah, when The Who came out on stage, I'll just try to go as linearly through the set list as I can to try and recall as many details as possible. Like, first they all just like walked out on stage, which is kind of a little odd for such a big band like that. Usually big bands would want to make an explosive start, like the whole stage is black and then they go on when no one can see them, and then all the lights go on when the first chord of the song rings. But no, they just all just kind of nonchalantly walked up on stage and picked up their instruments. And the drummer, he had like kind of like a young Justin Bieber blonde swoop, and he was wearing an orange and white striped t-shirt, and he was kind of a short, skinny guy too, and I thought, wait, is that like an 11-year-old kid? Whose kid is that they're letting them play with one of the biggest bands ever, playing one of the most like intricate drummers parts? And then I look closer at the monitor and I'm like, oh, it's a guy. It's like a full-grown man. Okay. And by the way, I was like way up in the balcony, like not all the way in the back, but pretty darn far away from the stage, probably like a football field's length away. And it's really a shame because ever since John Entwistle died, and Roger and Pete are the only two original members, the camera only showed Roger and Pete like 99% of the time, and it's really a shame because I know like all my favorite bassists have all been influenced by John Entwistle, and he was like really the first bassist to break the mold of just playing root notes and like utilizing the whole range of the instrument, going all over the neck, like making little counter melodies, and I'm like, I want to see that. Like, if I was up close, I wanted to see the bass's fingers, and apparently the replacement bassist they got was really awesome, but it's such a shame because I really wanted to see them playing. Like, Won't Get Fooled Again, I looked up the Songster tab long ago, like, and it was just like all over the place, and I'm just like, I really would have wanted to see that up close, but because of the not nosebleed seats, but pretty close to nosebleed seats, it's, I don't know, I just really would have liked to see them up close, but anyways, they started with I Can't Explain, which I've always liked. I always loved that Who song, and like, even though Pete and Roger's voices have deepened considerably since the early days. I actually kind of like their deep voices now. Like, it just kind of feels like it fits this type of music they're playing better. And of course, I love that song. I never heard The Seeker before, but that was a good second song. Oh, the third one, Who Are You? Gotta love Who Are You. And of course, that was always fantastic. And I remember in between Who Are You and The Kids Are Alright, they like introduce themselves like, how are you doing, Philadelphia? And everyone's like, yay. And then Pete tells this story about how in 1993 he got the keys to the city for Philadelphia back in 1993, I think. And I don't know, they were just like generally just like being nonchalant about everything. And then to introduce The Kids Are Alright, he said, I wrote this song back in 64 or 65, and all of you in the audience are probably born after I wrote this song. So, in the 50 years since I wrote this song, you all probably had families of your own. And back when we wrote this song in the day, we were like 18, 19 years old, and we didn't know. We just wrote this about ourselves and our friends, and over time, as we had children and grandchildren, we've seen that it's about our kids as well, and I don't really know about that. Like, I guess I would have to have a family to understand it, but to me, that song is about, like, your fellow peers and teenagers and your friends and stuff. But that's just my interpretation of it. Maybe in time I'll come to understand why it would be a song about your children, but I don't know. It's moving on to Squeeze Box, which, as I mentioned before, I didn't know was a Who song, and all I remember from that song is before the banjo solo, like, I don't know if he started late on purpose or by accident, but the backup musician who played banjo, like, didn't start playing, and Pete's like, do it now. Come on, do it now. I'm in charge. And then the dude started playing the banjo solo, and then after the song he said, that was our music director playing the banjo, and he said we need to introduce some chaos into the show, and I don't really know what that means, but it was funny. Let's see, I Can See for Miles. I didn't even know that song was a song until about a week ago, but it's a good song and I really like it. I might be listening to it some more. Gotta Love My Generation, the next song. That's like one of the Who's biggest songs. You can't not love My Generation. And I want it, and they actually zoomed in on the bass player during the bass solo, which was unbelievable. Seeing how they always focused on Roger and Pete, and the Keith substitute every once in a while, since all the drumming is pretty crazy. But yeah, and the four, like, I don't even know if it's a solo, they're more like interruptions, like, talking about my generation, and he played different parts from the studio version of the song. I don't know if back when Entwistle was still alive, Entwistle played those parts differently, but I don't know, I guess if the Who approves of the bassist improvising parts, then it's okay, and that might be what Entwistle did, but instead of the old outro you hear on the studio version of the song, they went into like this jam, like this extended 3 or 4 minute jam, and I thought that was really cool. And it's always nice to hear jams at concerts, see what the instrumentalists can do. And I didn't think they were gonna play Behind Blue Eyes, but it's one of my personal favorite Who songs, and I'm really glad I got to hear that live. So that was a real treat for me. The next couple songs I'd never really heard before. Wait, Join Together I've probably heard on the radio before, but I remember it sounding familiar, so I'm glad they played that. And You Better You Bet, I couldn't help but sing along. It's just such a fun song, and I'm glad they do that. The next couple songs, I don't know if I've ever really heard before, so I just kind of went along for the ride. Eminence Front is one of their more distinct sounding songs. Like, it doesn't really sound like The Who, because it's like a really, really 80s song with like synths, a lot of synths in there, and the guitar tone is a very 80s reverb-laden guitar tone. But like, I heard the chorus for the first time, and I'm like, wait, this sounds familiar. Oh, and wait, before the song, he said this song was, he was talking about how he only lets people, like, causes that, I don't know, have a good cause, he only, like, lets them use Who songs, like, because I guess they need Peter's permission or something. I don't know if it's a contracting thing or anything, but he said, like, I'd never allow, I don't know, a North Korean missile program to use a Who song, but one of these songs became a song featured on Miami Vice for many seasons, and for me that's as good as it gets. And then they played Eminence Front, and I'm like, okay, so this should probably be something I've heard before. And the long intro, that's just piano and drums, and then it slowly turns into synth, and then the first verse comes in, and I didn't really know what the song was. Then the chorus came, and I'm like, this sounds so familiar, what is this? So then I realized, oh, it's Eminence Front. I just didn't recognize, like, the deepness of the vocals. Like, that was what kept me from recognizing it. But yeah. And something my friend and my friend's dad said they didn't expect them to play, a quick one, and I never heard it before, but it's really cool. And they said, like, this was our first real attempt at a rock opera before Tommy or anything after that. So, and I thought it was really cool, and I definitely want to check that out again. And then they played 3 songs from Tommy, Pinball Wizard being one of them, one of my favorite Who songs again. How Can You Not Love? Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball from Soho down to Brighton. I must have played them all, but I ain't seen nothing like him in any amusement hall. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball. Da 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 da. Just See Me, Feel Me, which is, it kind of uses the same riff from Pinball Wizard. I guess it's all continuity. And then after those songs, they introduced the band. And then one thing I really love that Roger did, even though most bands don't do this, and they really should, he said, like on guitar, lead guitar, rhythm guitar, keyboards, piano, drums, bass, and the most important ingredient to a successful concert, you beautiful people. And then, I don't know, I just like that. And then their encore was Bob O'Reilly and Won't Get Fooled Again. And Bob O'Reilly, surprisingly sounded, for the most part, like it did on the recorded version. And the one thing I was looking for was in the outro. You know how in the recorded version there's fiddle solo? I'm like, I don't see a fiddle down there, even though it was really far away and I could like see all the instruments down there. I'm like, I don't see a fiddle. But then I'm like, Roger busts out a harmonica and does it on harmonica and played it practically perfectly, like note for note, the whole solo. And I'm like, oh, this is new. I didn't expect that. So that was a treat for me to see how they did that live. And then they closed with Won't Get Fooled Again, which, as everyone knows, everybody likes just for the outro, which is the sparse keyboards and then the drums coming in. And then during that part I was air drumming. And you gotta air drum during that part, you just can't. And then of course when the yeah comes out, I'm just like, yeah! Just going nuts, and just the people next to me are just like, what's this kid doing? And then I think they extended it a little bit too toward the end, because Roger's like, yeah, oh yeah, alright, for a few measures, and then he went into the meet the new boss, same as the old boss, and then the 4 notes, which you are contractually obligated to headbang every single time on the duh, 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 duh. Yeah, so that was overall fantastic show. Even though these guys are old enough to get a pension, they still put on a rockin' show. And like, Pete still does the windmill, which was awesome. And even though sometimes he gets a little lazy with it and does like the seesaw, like this kind of thing, I wouldn't trust myself with doing that, since I feel like I would smack somebody. And Roger, even to this day, Roger like twirls the microphone all over the place like he used to do in the old days. And I'm just like, these guys still love doing what they do. They have an old, devout fan base, and by old I mean they've been around for a really long time. And just like in the parking lot, I hear people telling stories about how, oh, I saw them in '82, and then I saw them in 2000, and now I'm gonna see them again. The Who is just like the greatest band ever. And I mean, yeah, based on what I saw last night, they are one of the greatest bands ever. They're still touring. What are you doing still sitting there? Go on the internet right now and buy some tickets to these shows. These people deserve fans going to their concerts. But their memorabilia is very expensive. This singular shirt was $40, which was like half the price I paid for admission to the show. So you're probably better off just ordering a t-shirt online. But merchandising aside, the band itself is amazing. See them. See them. See them.